Hello, welcome to today's podcast. I'm going to be doing this on the family and friends glasses, which is a funny sort of podcast, but I think it's important if you're a spiritual and psychic person, intuitive, that you understand how this works. We can have the gift. A lot of you people who are listening to these podcasts are very gifted psychically and spiritually. Maybe you can channel, get messages for people, do healings. Maybe you have dreams. Maybe you even see things for them. However, when it comes to your family and friends, there's an emotional component that you have between them. And I think you should always warn or be sure that you explain to your family and friends that if you do a reading or a healing, that you're going to maybe get in the way and it might not be as clear, perhaps, as someone who doesn't know them. I always suggest to people that they go to another reader as well. So I'll do a reading sometimes for my regular clients, and then I sometimes get that feeling that they need to go to another reader because I know them a bit or just to reassure them. But sometimes with the family and friends, I think they need to go to another reader as well as you. You can do the reading, but you need to go in case there's any parts that you can't access because you're too close. We can actually be too close to people. This sounds crazy, but if we really love them and there's something in the reading that's coming through that we can't deal with, perhaps we can't access it. Being very close to people too means that we don't have the same overall vision sometimes. I usually know when I'm not sure about things because I don't get anything, and I'm not sure it's because I don't want to get anything. I want to be right or wrong this time because they're hanging on to it. So I just be quiet. If you're not getting any clarity around it, whether they pass the exam or not, just say something, well, let's just hope for the best. Or if you don't get any clarity around any medical things, just say, well, I'm not getting anything. It's very important that you do this instead of trying to give them what they want, which might not be what the answer is. I've learnt the hard way about the family and friends glasses, and sometimes it can also go wrong for you. As I mentioned in another podcast, if you read someone and they want the truth and you're getting it and you tell them, you can be punished for this, and you can be very severely punished. Nothing will be said, but there will be a definite cut off from you, and that you will feel them energetically retract from you, and you don't really want that with your family and friends. They can go to another reader, they can go to another healer or clairvoyant, and they will hopefully, if they're good, they'll get similar information, and then your relationship remains intact. Some people who do readings or are people who are psychic actually do not work on or read for their families. They make that the rule, that they won't do it. I haven't actually definitively made that rule because I still get information for them and I'll still get the wording or the message and I can still send the healing. For me, I'm somewhere in the middle there. Decide what works for you. It all depends what the message is, I think. If it's one of a positive nature, we'll obviously easily get it and it won't come through our I can't tell them that, it's too upsetting filter, because we do have filters and you can tell them. However, if it is not a very nice message, you might actually block it from coming in, and they might need to know that. Before my husband died, I saw a picture probably 5 or 6 months before, and it was just a picture of a bullet train coming in. He was like a cartoon character and he was run over and completely flattened. And at the time I didn't really understood what it meant. I sort of thought, oh wow, you better watch out, he's going to get hit. 5 or 6 months later he got cancer. They didn't find it. It was everywhere and he died within 47 days. I was actually warned, but I wasn't told in a way that would block the outcome. It was probably his time, and they would have known that if they'd told me the message and I'd got it for him, I would have madly been trying to heal and fix it all, which wasn't what I was supposed to do and it wasn't the path. You can actually get a little flicker of the message, a dream, my picture, which didn't really make sense, but in retrospect made complete sense. Because of that, you then don't relay it, you don't have full understanding. It's like you're protected a little bit. So instead of having me suffer for the 5 or 6 months before. I just had to do the last bit. Some people get the messages in dreams. You might do that too. You'll know if it's psychic or not, a warning message. It's also important that you be careful too with your friends and your family. You don't scare them. Sometimes you can get something, and if you interpret it the wrong way or isn't translated properly. For example, my message, he didn't get run over by a train, so it wasn't an accident, but I could have interpreted that as an accident, that he's going to be knocked over by a car or something, or be in an accident, and that's not how it happened. Just warning you that with your family and friends, your filter will be a little bit skewed by your love of them, and also, I suppose, not interfering, because even though we do this work and we can be psychic, we're not supposed to interfere with the bigger plan, their bigger plan. That's not for us to interfere with. So from now on, you can tell them you've got your family and friends glasses on. And so when you tell them things, you have a little bit of insurance to, I'm telling you this, but I am close to you. And if you really want a clearer message, which hasn't got any emotion in it, because it's our emotion that gets in the way, go to someone else. And that's a pretty good thing to do too. And if they get the same as you, well, that's good. And if they get extra, that's even better. It can be a tricky path, being a person that people come to see what you get, because they rely on it. I just find that when I'm less emotionally involved, I am more sure, more clear, because I don't have my attachment to that person in the same way, and I don't want to tell them things that hurt their feelings. Of course, you will have times when it blurts out. In my situation, one of my friends who's very psychic actually blurted it out. He said if he isn't careful, he won't be here for long, and then had to try and retract it and say, oh, I'm sorry, but it had already come out. And that was actually, they were preparing me, because that was very soon before, maybe over in a month or so, before he actually got diagnosed. I was probably being given a little bit of a warning, otherwise he would never have got that message. But when he said it, he actually, I think, felt like he wished it hadn't come out of his mouth. And you might have that sometimes, it will just come out your mouth, and there's almost nothing you can do about that. Then I think it was supposed to come out. There was some reason for it, and maybe your emotion was put aside so they could prepare on some level. So when it started happening in some soul way, they were already prepared. Being prepared can be good. It gives you time to get used to things, but you have to know that it's going to upset people also, and that's something you need to be very clear about. And time and space is really different in the universal life. They can say soon and they mean 3 years or tomorrow, and I can never work out which one it is, so I don't know. You don't always get the timing right. When I read for someone else, I can get the timing quite clear and say it feels around the new year, or that's the first opening, the first opportunity. But the timing's been very messy the last few years to read, so you read more as this is an outcome that could happen. And they can also block things happening, and be aware of that. If you are with somebody who wants you to read and you're close to them, but they want to maintain the control and power, they can actually block your outcome. So you can read that they were supposed to do this or get this job, but they can actually block it, and then you'll look like you're wrong when in fact the read was quite good. Be careful. Be loving when you read them, if you have to read them, and be gentle, because they're going to feel it more than other people. And do not feel that there's anything wrong with sending them to some other good reader, because that's really taking care of them as well, isn't it? I'm sending you lots of love, and I'm sending you lots of light.